I am so excited for this new series, Behind the Scenes of Your Favorite A-Listers. And today, the series, part 1, is going to be with Lance Lynn, and part 2 with his wife, Diamond Lynn. Lance is a major league pitcher, and he has been an all-star. He has won the World Series. He's been pitcher of the year. His list of accomplishments goes on and on. And just this year, he hit 2,000 innings and 2,000 strikeouts. Incredible. He is an awesome guy. He has worked so hard and just fought and created a routine and structure and how to take care of himself, both mentally and physically, through trial and error and going around. And he is just so fun and is going to be awesome to talk to today. So let's do this. Hello, butthole breathers. Welcome. Lance Lynn is in the hot seat today, and I am so grateful that you decided to come on and chat with us.
Thanks for having me.
Are you in your house? Is that Christmas decorations up?
I am. Christmas is up and ready to go here. Diamond's big into it, so I just have to make sure the tree's up, and then her and the kids get it ready to go.
I love it. Well, if you're watching on YouTube, you can kind of see both of us and our antics, and we're just going to have a little conversation here. And this is a series where we're having both parties. So we're going to talk to Lance today and then his beautiful wife tomorrow. So we have some of the same questions for both of them. And just so you can really see what it takes to be at an elite level to perform this way. And we're going to talk about the perks and then the dark side and all the things in between. So first, luckily I know you a little bit, so I have some good questions for you. But there are some things like people, I think you eat, breathe, sleep baseball, but you do have other interests and hobbies besides that. So
yeah, you do. You gotta get away from it a little bit.
My husband loves to hunt, and I feel like I'm like Diamond. I'm like, oh, another hunting trip, or oh my gosh, it takes up so much time. What is your favorite thing to hunt?
Ooh, I'd say the number one's probably deer, but I've been getting into duck hunting here as of late. That's a new one for me. So that's got a different vibe to it where you don't just sit there and be quiet and all that. You get a chance to, talk amongst a group and stuff like that. So I just went on a 4-day duck hunt over in Nebraska, Missouri. So that was a fun one.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Do you travel around the states too to do different kinds of hunts?
This was my first one. So that was the first one, especially bird hunting. Down in Southern Illinois here, you can pretty much get everything you need for the most part within an hour or two drive. So that was the first legit, travel to out of state, decent hike. But I've been to Kansas on a deer hunt, stuff like that too. So you kind of pick out one place a year you want to go and then do the rest around the house.
Did you get a deer this year?
I have not yet. Right now, I've got one out back that I would like to get after, but I'm looking. Weather's been kind of weird. It's been spotty. It's been cold, been hot, so there's been no real good flow running through the woods on when they come out and stuff like that. So I haven't got them quite patterned the way I want to yet.
And one of the struggles I get with, he wants to mount said deer head or turkey or whatever, and thinks it's appropriate to want to hang it in the house. I mean, do you guys have this battle as well?
Yeah, but it's turned out to where we now have a barn that's being built at the front of the property, and I think that's where everything that gets killed is going to go. We got an idea for a couple things in the office that kind of go with the vibe, but other than that, everything else is at the barn.
I like it. That's winning. And then you can walk in there, and another favorite thing is bourbon. So what's your go-to bourbon?
Yep. Ooh, a go-to bourbon. Oh, man. I'm going to tell you, I've been on, I'm saying the last one I really liked. I've been on Blanton's. I think that's kind of been the one. We went on a trip last year to Buffalo Trace, and I saw how it was made and all that, and then kind of got into it where I started drinking, and I was like, so I've been kind of on that kick right now. So I'm going to go with Blanton's right now, and I bounce around a little bit, but that's the easy one to kind of just have ready to rock.
And are you Manhattan, old fashioned, or just on the rocks guy?
It just depends. I'm probably you give me one big rock and I'm good to go.
Perfect. And is Bland's the one where they have like you save the lids and there's like horses or something and it's supposed to make like a pretty centerpiece, my husband keeps telling me.
Yeah, so Yeah, so you save all the tops, and then each top has a different letter etched into it, and you can spell Blanton's with it across the top too. So they give you a little some keepsakes too, just to make it worth your while, I guess.
Are you going for that?
I've already got that. We've got all of them across the top. So I don't know if that speaks badly about me, or it's just we just got our hands on a couple of bottles that worked out well.
Yeah, absolutely. So is that your relaxation thing? You go in your barn, or you're going to futurely go in your barn, sip on some bourbon, and just check out and relax.
Yeah, so the barn's mostly going to be made up for hunting, and we'll do it as like a little party barn too. So we did our first birthday party at the house, and having 30 kids, 5 and under, was too much in the house. So we're like, all right, part of this barn we're going to make a big area, and then we'll have, a little bit more room to where it's not too crazy in here. So it's going to be a little party barn slash hunting lodge type thing. So yeah, that will be a area where there'll be some bourbon drank around a campfire for sure.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. And yeah, that is a lot. 30 children running around. I just wanted to ask you, like, the stress of your career, the stress of, everyone has an opinion about everything, about every move you make, as what even your gait probably as you walk to the mound and how you stand there, and even like if you have a resting bitch face or not. How do you like relax and relieve the stress?
Oh man, you talking like not playing when I'm not playing?
Yep.
I think feel like when I'm not playing, it's like you don't have time to be stressed. 4 kids, 3 of them are 5 and under, 6 and under. So you're looking at you really don't have time to think about all the other stuff. So that's been kind of the good part. It's like the separation's been huge for me. So I can be like, all right, this is what I got to do to play, and then I'm done with that until I got to do it again, type thing. So I think the days of breaking up when you have to go to the field and stuff like that, it's when I turn it on. When I'm driving home, I turn it off. And it's something I had to learn over the years. It wasn't easy right away for sure.
Yeah. And something I noticed with you, you're very good at, I forget the term, but like compartmentalizing. Why am I struggling with English here?
I
Compartmentalizing.
don't know if it's a good thing in all. Yeah.
And did you
Yeah. I have
like,
that.
was that
Just
something like, how did you come about to be able to do that? Like, what are some of the things you're doing inside of your head actively that makes you so good at that?
I don't really know. I never did too much like, and there's all kinds of people that help you visualize this and that. I was never had any of that growing up or never did anything. It was just like, I learned to just turn things off when it was time to turn them off. And I don't know if it was just like something that happened natural or like it just grew into me. It was like, hey, it's time for this. That's all that matters. It's time for this. That's all that matters. And over the course of like growing into it and stuff like that, it was, it's like you get into a big stage or this and that, and everyone's like, what do you hear? This and that. I was like, nothing. I just pitch. And it's not anything that I trained myself to do. It just happened over time and doing things. And then I always went back and looked back at things to figure out how I do them better the next time instead of, not thinking about them, this or that. So it was like, oh, hey, next time when I'm shutting off, I'm shutting this off too. It's like, and then it's time to let this go. So I don't know. I guess it's just over time I've learned how to block things out or just not pay attention to it. I have the ability not to hear things. I don't, and sometimes that gets me in trouble at home. So it's just I can turn it off pretty quick and just do what I want to do.
Yeah, selective hearing, as they say. And at home, like,
It's very good.
how important is it to have such a support system and a supportive partner? And like, that is a role I don't think people stress enough in this industry, whether you're, a singer, an athlete, a celebrity, a high powered CEO. But that's a huge deal. And like, can you shine light on how important that is and how you guys make it work?
No, I mean it's amazing because people don't realize it's like we get all the glory because we're on TV or we're performing and this and that. Like the amount of things that have to be done, whether it's kids, school, all the things that parents that are able to work together daily. My wife has to deal with that all pretty much 8 months out of the year on her own, and it's just crazy to think about this lifestyle, and you wouldn't be able to have a family, you wouldn't have the things that you're having without a partner that's able to sacrifice the way she has. So, not only for our family, but for our kids and everybody, so everybody can be where they want to be a part of everything and all that. And it's a crazy lifestyle, especially for kids when they're little. It's like every couple, if you're gone for a week, you're home for a week, go to spring training for 2 months. So it's like you're just uprooting them everywhere you go. Hopefully later in life that gives them the ability to just kind of go and, not have any anxiety about new places and stuff like that. But right now it's definitely tough on them. And, I get the luxury of going to the field and playing and competing and having my own thing where she's stuck in it 24/7, 7 days a week, where she's, pretty much a solo parent. So her ability to deal with all that, and, I'm grateful for it because I wouldn't be able to do everything I'm doing without it.
That's awesome. Yeah, you kind of get to live both dreams, the home life and the professional career.
Yeah, you get the luxury of it, and then she gets stuck with having to deal with all the kids are when they're sick and this and that. I got to go. Hey, good luck. I'm gonna go play.
Yeah.
I'll
And so
think about you guys.
how do you make you and her a priority? Do you guys do regular date nights? Like how, especially in season and out of season, how do you make, because we obviously know family is super important, but you and her are the united front, the team, everything. So you have to prioritize yourselves.
We've changed it up here and there. We try to make sure during the season she'll do some trips where it's just her when we go on the road and stuff, just so we have that time. She gets to see some nice things. We stay at a pretty nice hotel, so spa days happen and stuff like that. So that's time for her to kind of relax too. We try to, at home in the off season, you get in the rhythm of school and everything you gotta do. We try to make sure we have one night a week where we can go do our things, and then, maybe even during the day when the kids are at school, have the grandparents pick them up. We have like a little, day date, do some stuff for us. So, we try to make sure each week we do something different or something like that, but also make sure it's just us. That's part of it. You got to make time for it, because the next thing you know, you look up and you're 2 weeks in, you're like, hey, like we need a minute for ourselves, because it's like you feel like you haven't seen each other in a week, but you've been in the same house. It's because everybody's going in a different direction, whether it's gymnastics, school, dance. It's just like, all right, here we go. Who's up tonight?
Yeah. Who's the Uber driver tonight?
Yeah, I'm with this, and which kid, what's what parent.
Absolutely. So, what do the kids think of dad? Obviously, it's their norm. They don't know anything different. Do they love coming to games? Do they hate it? Do they want to play catch with you in the yard? What's that look like?
So it's kind of crazy. My oldest is into dance. She loves that. She played softball for a little bit, but now it's like she's like, hey, I'm good at dance. So she kind of just went, and so she's old enough to actually know what I do, see me on TV, and all of her friends know. So I think that's the one right now where she's like, "Hey, Dad, like people ask me this and that," and she's pretty cool because she's had to deal with it her whole life. So she like it's no big deal to her, but people kind of make it a big deal. So she's like, "Dad, that's kind of weird," and I go, It's part of it, I go, people think it's pretty cool. She's like, yeah, but like it's why do we got to ask weird questions and stuff like that? And I go, yeah, well, tell them if they have any questions, they can ask me. But kids, nowadays kids, everybody's got internet and stuff like that. So they can sit there and look and see, big thing is like, oh, well, her dad made this much money. It's like, that doesn't matter. Like stuff like that. And the other ones are little enough to where they like coming to the games because they can get ice cream and stuff like that, but I don't think they understand what it is. They're like, oh, dad's got to go play on TV. They just see it as, oh, that makes dad not here. So they don't really like it. I don't think too much, especially when I'm out like on the road. But the little guy, he's 2, and he will pick up a bat and a ball and say hit and do that every chance he gets. So it's kind of weird. Each kid's got a little different vibe with it, is what I've learned so far.
Yeah, that's really cool. What age did you start playing baseball then? If you have the little one wanting to go at 2.
Yeah, my dad always told me that because he played like slow pitch softball. I had an older brother that I would go to all his games and stuff like that. They said from the get go it was throwing, grabbing a ball, throwing it, or trying to hit. So the first time I remember playing was t-ball, or like I knew that I played, and that was 5 years old. So, but I think early on, they said when I was at softball tournaments or my brother's baseball, football games and stuff, if there was a game, I was trying to get into it with all the other kids. And that happened from a young age, they said.
Oh, that's awesome. And when did you fully start pitching and throwing lots of reps?
Ooh. I would say at like 10. I mean, I started you pitching stuff starts when you're 8, but when you like really figure out, hey, like 10, 11, 12 is when I was like, I kind of grew into it. Then I always played first base and hit to all the way through high school, but pitching kind of really took over in high school days and in college. So once I went to college, I pitched only. That was when it was, I think, 13. I like actually did stuff in the winter for the first time. I like played all summer, played basketball and football, but it was like, hey, you're going to go to this pitching class in a couple times a week to to work on stuff and all that. And then that's kind of how it kind of happened. So up until 12, it was pretty much just, as my dad always said, is like that's as much as I can teach you. And then 13 on was like we had coaches and people that were like academies and stuff like that is when we started going. But until then, I never really went to anything. I just hit in the cage, threw with my dad, like played, just played. And then we started, doing things after that.
Did you always know that this is what you wanted to do with your life?
Yeah, I think so. Everyone asks you, like, hey, what did you want to do when you're growing up? I think when I was 12, 13, I got lucky when I was 12. I played in the Little League World Series. So early on, I had some success. So when you like feel that, you see it. And I also had some failures. At 12 years old, I gave up a walk-off grand slam on national television in front of everybody at the Little League World Series. So like I had like my first sense of failure probably at the greatest place that most kids ever get. Like, and then I was able to go to college and then play in the major league. So it was like from early on, I felt that high, but I also felt like, hey, how much it could hurt when you don't succeed. And then it just kind of built. I always built better off my negatives than my positives. I think it was something I was raised. It was like, hey, that was a good game, but if you rest on it, they're going to get you. And then when you have bad games, you got to figure out how to get better, how to not let them happen again. So bad games are going to happen more than the good ones. So you got to figure out how to get through those ones. So I don't know. It was early on. It was like I didn't like losing. I liked winning, and then when I lost, it pissed me off, made me work more. So it was kind of one of those things where it just kind of happened, and I didn't think about anything else. It was, here, I'm going to do this. This is how I'm going to get a scholarship because I couldn't afford college. And this is how, hopefully I can make it to the major leagues. If not, at least I got a scholarship out of it was kind of my idea.
Yeah, that's awesome. I truly think when you fail is where you're growing the most, or when you're injured, what can you learn about that? And how can we like get you better than you were before you got injured? Which can you talk about? I know you've had your handful of injuries. What are some of the biggest ones where you've learned the most in your career?
I would say they kind of they come in phases too, the injuries too. So I think each one of them create a different thing that you can learn. When I hurt my elbow originally, I was in my like mid to late 20s. So it was like getting that point to where it was like that was more of a, hey, I had a year off. I couldn't do anything. So it was like, that was when you learn how to like do everything else. Cause up until that point, it was like, hey, I'm just going to work out and play. There was no therapy, there was no massaging, there was no dry needling, there was nothing back then. So it was like once I got injured and all that, and then like I was like, hey, I had a hip problem, I had this and this, and I was able to really concentrate on other things because I couldn't play. And then it would I was able to learn my body in a weird way. And then I had some success after that, and then I hit 30, and then like 32, and then like you started getting like hey, you're getting a little older, you don't quite move as well as you need to. Then it's figuring out how to make things stay on the things, but then you changing routines, changing different exercises to warm up and stuff like that. So I think it just kind of grows after you get your initial. And then the last one is, I've had some knee issues the older I've gotten here. And then you have different, like a lot of my thing is I'm a bigger person. So it's about strengthening everything I need to do in certain spots. But if I don't stay flexible, it just puts a lot of pressure on certain things. And there's things that you don't even realize that get tight in certain spots.
Do you wish you would have started like doing body work, activation, all this stuff you're talking about, strengthening a little earlier? Do you think that would have been more helpful?
I do. I think that you're like nowadays. I see a lot of the guys that they show up at 21 years old in spring training, and they're doing the things that I never seen before, like when I was their age. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's just a lot of things how far it's come and how much it was kind of, hey, back in the day, it was, do some high knees, do some gate openers and closers, and let's, circle our arms and let's go play catch. Now it's like, you have 30-minute, like, hey, here's your reset, here's your this and that, here's your daily, and you're like, oh my goodness, I got a 30-minute workout before I just go play catch. So it's kind of crazy to think about that, how far it's come. But yes, I would have loved to have known some things. I always tell myself, man, if I would have known this when I was younger, I would have been this way better. But it's like, I've had a pretty darn good career, so I think it
Oh,
worked out the way it was supposed to. But yeah, it would have been great to not hurt as much early on in my career. But it also made me tough, I guess. So I don't know. But yeah,
yeah.
it was. There were some times where some things were aching that it would have been nice to have some of these things early on.
Yeah. And I mean, being tough is a thing, especially in your world or any professional athlete world. And I don't think people talk about that enough because it's not only physically tough, like you're going to hurt a lot of the times, especially depending on what sport you're at, but also mentally tough. Because like you said, you're on a big stage, everyone's watching. And I'm sure social media, if was social media a big thing at the time, but either way, like people blow up and have their opinion about you and everything else. Like how do you deal with all that being tough?
Well, I mean, I was taught a long time ago. It was easy. It's easy for me because I didn't have like anything else. So it was like, hey, how you feel today? I was like, well, I remember coming back from my Tommy John. I was like, they're like, hey, how's it feel? I was like, it doesn't feel great. They're like, well, you had surgery. It's never gonna feel great again. I was like, cool. I was like, and then I told myself, it's like, hey, don't think it's going to feel good. We're done. And if you want to play and you want to, do this thing, you just have to deal with it. So that was like, okay, it doesn't feel good. Who cares? I'm dealing with it. And then it's just like, that's the mindset I had is like, all right, I love to compete. And if I can physically do it without breaking, I'm going to do it. Sometimes I do it and break myself, but that comes with the territory at times. I think physically, mentally, it was like one of those things where you learn. I think by playing other sports growing up, I learned how to use my body to take stress and things off at times when I got myself where I didn't get injured, but I was able to play hurt. I think that was something by playing other sports, playing basketball, football, and like you just learn how to get through it, and learn how to like there's days where you're out there you're 80%, but you didn't put another guy at danger and all that, and you were able to get through the game and we won, so it worked out, and then you're able to do the rehab you need to do to be ready for the next one, where sometimes some guys can't do that. I think for me it was, I'm going, if I can physically do it, I'm going to give you everything I have to help us win that day, and then I'm just able to kind of navigate my way through it.
Yeah. And speaking of playing other sports, you've hit on that a couple times, and that's something I'm pretty big on as a doctor. How important, especially with your four kids, do you feel like that is in not specializing at 6 years old?
It's That's not going to happen in this household. We're going to try everything for as long as we can. I think for me, when you're young, like some of these kids nowadays are in baseball. Everyone's like, "Hey, why are kids getting hurt? This and that." And I was like, "Well, they don't do anything except throw a baseball and hit their whole life." And it's just like they got to take a break. But also, like for me, basketball and football, every sport had different, movements, different things of that you needed to do, and then it was able to get your whole body to like work together. In my opinion, like the little muscles, being able to stretch the little tendons a little bit in different sports and stuff like that. To next thing you know, to where it's like you're not overusing one, and then next thing you know, you're 18 years old and something's breaking that shouldn't be breaking yet. And I just think it's good for kids. The differences in all sports mentally and physically are great to make you well rounded in all aspects. So whatever sport you do play, it's like, hey man, this is, in football I had to deal with this little when I got a stinger and then I had to stay on the field. Like, okay, yeah, in baseball when you dive for a play, get up, get ready for the next ball. Most likely it's not going to come to you, but like you just learn to kind of like, oh, that hurt a little bit. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just good. I mean, obviously you don't want to play hurt, but it's, it just helps you. Basketball, when you like running them down the court and stuff like that, that's just good. It just helps your body move and stuff like that. And baseball has a tendency to make you unathletic, I find that the other sports help you stay athletic, and especially if you just pitch. If you just pitch, you are going to get unathletic. It's just like, and then there's some really good pitching athletes, but I guarantee you they played other sports growing up and stuff like that. So I think it really helps you for the long haul. And then pitching, you like playing other sports, you're able to like when something's bothering you that day, you're able to like use your other things to compensate for it. And then that's how it's helped me throughout my career.
And I feel like any of the pitchers I've treated at the major league level, like most of them, like you, didn't really start fully pitching all the time till a little later. It wasn't like it started at 7, 8 or whatever. They were diversified in their sports. Like you said, neurologically, your brain's able to connect to other muscles and figure it out. You know, obviously way more pitchers than I've treated, but like, do you find that in between them?
Yeah, I would say that there's a good chunk of like major league pitchers that were multi-sport athletes, and then they also, when they grew up, they didn't just pitch; they played other positions in baseball too. And but you will see the guys that are, hey, I've been a pitcher only since I was 12 years old. They are like that. I will find that there's a difference in the movements and stuff like that. Most of those guys that only played pitcher only their whole life were a little bit more mechanical and stuff like that. So they were a little bit more rigid, I guess, in their movements because when you play other sports, it helps you move a little bit, have a little bit more flow in your movements and stuff like that. When you just do the same thing over and over again, you're going to get robotic, but it's trying to make sure it doesn't become a thing where it's so robotic that it puts stress on certain things, whether it's your shoulder, elbow, or something like that, where, those guys, those guys have a different movement to them, in my opinion.
So, speaking of all the movements, what you do as a pitcher, everyone always is curious, like, what does their day look like? What are you doing? You wake up, like, do you have a cup of coffee and hang out with your wife and kids? Or do you go, hey, do you have an alarm and you're going straight down to pitch? Can you tell me, let's do an off-season day first, like, because we're in the off-season.
Uh, yeah, we can do it right now. This morning we were up at 7. We got the girls ready for school, so I was doing ponytails this morning at 7:30.
Mm-hmm.
So we were doing ponytails. We got some bagels. We got some breakfast. We were out the door. Got back at 8. Had a cup of coffee, with a little collagen in it to start my day, and then it would go down to workout, which I'll do after this. Start my little throw workout, and then after that, it's what time I'll pick up at school at 3. We got gymnastics tonight. Dinner, bed by 8. Do it all over again.
I love it.
That's kind of how this goes this time of year.
And how long is like your workout and your strength routine versus like mobility? And then how long are you pitching?
So I would say, so my first 30 minutes are the stretch and mobility routine, which I've got it down to kind of like hey, this is my daily warm up, even if I'm not working out or throwing that day. It's just like kind of I'm going to go down there and I'm going to do it no matter if I have nothing to do today. And then I'll go into my throwing after that. So it'd be 30 minutes. Then throwing's going to be, right now it's kind of light because at this time of year it picks up as you go, but be 20 minutes of throwing and stuff like that, of kind of concentrating on that. And then after that, it's 45 minutes of your workout and all that. And then the last 20 is cardio.
Okay.
So all in all, you got about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, depends on how long your throwing stuff is that day. So it's usually a good 2 hours
And do you have
all
a
the way
rest
around.
day?
Yeah, it just kind of depends. You do. I kind of build it around what the kids' schedule looks like too. So if I know they don't have anything to do that day, that's my day, so we can go do family stuff. So usually I go 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off. So it kind of works out to where it's Wednesdays and Saturdays, and then Sundays kind of just we do our stuff. But I'll go down there and get something in cardio wise Sunday just to kind of get ready to not have 2 days off going in back into Monday, so I can keep moving.
That's good.
Too many days
Well,
off, the order you get, things start wanting to not work.
yeah, a body in motion stays in motion. What about in
Right.
season? Can you give me a sample of in season?
Yeah. So, I mean, the easiest way to explain in season is the 5 day routine. So, games are usually at 6 or 7 every night. So that means you're getting the field at 1 to 2. every day, right around there. And so you get there. If it's start day, you show up a little later. So I'll go start day. You start, you got all your stuff. So you got your 30-minute warm up just to do all that before you even, go out to throw and throw bullpens and all that. So my routine starts an hour before I have to be on the game mound, and ready to go, which it just depends. As the season goes on, it gets a little longer. You get
Yeah.
a little help from the training staff, and you have your pre-work before you go do your stretch, whether it's having somebody get your body moving, help you get some things going. So you have that. So that's a 20, and then you got your 30, and then you got your stuff outside. And the day after you come in, you do your correctives, you get movement and all that. And then for me, I like to hit the bike or elliptical for 20, just to kind of start the flush process. And then I do a full body workout to help kind of everything, which is not as heavy. It's more movement pattern and like really kind of getting into the areas that I need to make sure they stay flexible. And then the next day, I'll do a little bit more of like traditional lifting, whether it's still a full body, but like your normal, like, hey, I got some heavy stuff, whether it's squats, your push pulls, your just your whole, and then the next day I have my movement pattern again, but it's more of and then that's after my bullpen. And that's still lifting full body, but it's like lighter reps, kettlebell stuff, a lot of different stuff to keep your body moving. And then the next day is just some light cardio to get ready for the start the next day. So, and then all those days have the 30-minute prep. And then you have your, all in all, it's about an hour and a half a day on each of them, maybe 2 hours on your heavy lift day, because you're just going to need a little bit more rest time in between sets.
Absolutely. And how important to you is that routine that you have nailed down mentally and like for the stress component and even emotionally for like any anxiety, any nerves, any frustrations? Is that when you really like buckle in and like let it all go?
Yeah, I think so. For me, like a lot of people on their start days, people don't know this in baseball. Like when it's your start day, people think that they have to have this big like game face on when they show up at the field and stuff like that. And there's guys that have to do that. I'm not that person. Like I like to come in, I'm going to have lunch, I'm going to say hello, I'm going to joke with teammates a little bit. But as my day starts progressing to like getting my prep work done, like that's my time when it's like I start to click it in. So it's like even if you don't feel good that day, it's like when you start doing your prep work, your body's gonna start feeling a little better, and then the adrenaline starts kicking in. You're like, and then so for me, it's kind of you say it's like it just helps me build into my thing, to build into my start. So, and I know when to start because of, hey, I'm getting ready, instead of like all day sitting there being like, oh, I got to start tonight. Next thing you know, you're like, the clock hasn't moved in the last 2 hours. So for me, it's like, no, I'm not worried about the clock until I need 50 minutes before I got to be outside. And then once it hits, it's like, see you later. And then everyone knows like, hey, he's done talking today. We'll see him after the game.
You got to put that resting bitch face on. Don't talk to me.
Yeah, you get everyone they joke with me because it's like, hey, you're having fun. Like, I mean, I'm giving guys a hard time, this and that. We're having fun. I'm getting guys going, and then they're like, we can tell. Like, it's like you go, and then like it's like your eyeballs are like, all right, he's ready to go.
That's true.
But I think it's easy. My teammates like it because it keeps them a little like when you see a guy like zoned in all day, you feel like you can't be yourself around them. So they're like, man, it helped some of the young kids. They're like, it helped us relax a little bit throughout the day, and then know that, hey, we can be normal, we can have fun. But it's like when we go in, it's like we're trying to get to here. We don't have to be here all day. It's like let's take our time getting there because we don't need to peak too early in this day. Let's peak at the game time.
Well, especially because the 7 o'clock games, like that's a long time to be on and ready. You got to have some fun. Like having fun needs to be part of it,
Oh yeah,
right? Um,
has to.
ha-
If it's too like no fun.
no fun. How important is nutrition to you? Like, what are you eating on game day?
So that's something that I definitely had to learn over my life. I eat whatever I want most of my life. I've learned that the older I get, it's like, okay, I can't eat that. Whether it's like, oh, where you're out there, you're like, man, burping up pasta and you're like, red sauce, heartburn. You're like, what was that? When I was growing up and I was young, like I said, it was, I could, go out and eat pizza the night before and go throw 100 pitches and throw 98 miles an hour and everything was fine. The older I get, I was like, man, I got heartburn now just after eating one slice and I don't even have to pitch tomorrow. So it's crazy how much it's changed over the course of my career. I try on start days, you're never really hungry because you're like, when you wake up. So for me, when I wake up, that's my most time where like I'm kind of hungry. I try to eat a big breakfast, like pancakes, eggs, and like try to get a good base throughout the day. And then throughout the day, I have time frames where I have to eat something, and I try to make it. It just depends on where you're at. So every stadium's different too. So you just got to worst case scenario, you're going to be able to eat a ham or turkey sandwich before you go out. And then for me, if I get like a decent little something like that before I go out, I'm good to go. But then you have lunch. So it's like, the problem is you'll be on the road and you play at 6 and you get up. So you eat breakfast at the hotel and then you get to the field and some of that stuff is just, you don't want to you don't want to touch it. I try to eat those days. I'm going to eat rice and chicken. They usually always have a rice and some sort of meat, so I try to keep it as bland as possible on my start days. And then worst case scenario, like I said, it's a turkey sandwich about 2 hours before the game, and then so there's something in there. And then during the game, they've got a little stuff that helps you, get a little something, whether it's the little protein bar or something like that if you need something.
Yeah. Describe that feeling of standing at the pitching mound, game time, big game. You've done it thousands of times, but like everyone's watching you. The pressure is on you. That is a big thing. It's not like you're standing in the outfield waiting for a ball to get caught. It is all about you
Right.
and that pitch. Like, what does that feel like?
Over the course of my career, it grows a little differently. There's nothing like throwing the first pitch of the game. It's like, hey, nothing's going to start until I throw this thing. So it's kind of it's for me. It went. Remember my first ever start? Like I was like, just don't throw it off the backstop. Like first pitch in the big leagues, and then now it's like, all right, like I'm get it going here. Like, let's go. It's like you like kind of like I don't know. It's like it's so normal now that it's like, all right, it's time to go. Like, it's like I throw my warm up pitches, I'm walking around and like I stand on the back of the mound and then I walk up and it's like he's stepping in the box and then it's time to, it's like before that, the whole time when I was young, it was like, all right, this and that. You're like looking around, like fans or this, and like now it's like, all right, cool, give me the ball, tell me what pitch to throw, and I'm gonna throw it where I want to. So it's definitely the longer you do it, the more chill it is, but it's also like the more intense you get. I don't know, like, or you're able to stay more intense because you don't just kind of go in and out of it.
How do you deal with you throw a couple bad pitches or you get a home run on you and you're like, shit, dang it. What do
Yeah.
you tell yourself then, like to get back to it?
Oh man, I say some of the meanest things to myself that I don't know if I can repeat. But over the course, like I said, over the course of my career, I was like, they were like, hey, don't show any emotion, this and that, hold it all in. And what it did was it kind of made me like, it made me feel like I was going to explode. So the older I've gotten and stuff like that, I just let it out. And like I just get it out and then it's over for me. So it's like, yeah, and it's like, I don't know if I can curse on this, but it's like
Yeah.
nice fucking pitch. And then next thing you know, you're like, nice pitch, you dumb fuck. Like that's it. And then you're like, okay, and it's over. But before, when I was younger, it was like you hold it in, you're like, oh my goodness, don't do it again, don't do it again. And then you do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And then the older I've gotten, more I've learned is like, well, that was fucking stupid. Let's fucking go. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
it's like, I think by not letting you show emotions, sometimes it makes the negative build inside you, where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, let's get that out of the way and let's get on to the next one.
Yeah, and it seems like you used to, it was almost like an insecurity thing. Like, don't let it happen again. Like, it affected the rest, but you letting it out, you're kind of almost pep talking yourself. And like you're saying, like, let it go. So it
Yeah.
just seems like a switch of self talk. Not that it's great, but it's like when you fail, you learn more, right? Something you and your beautiful wife
Yep.
have a podcast, and it's called A Diamond in the Rough with Lance Lynn sometimes. I heard you talking about something
Hmm.
hilarious I didn't know about you, booing. When people boo you, you kind of like it. So tell us about that.
I will. So usually the booing comes when you're on the road and you pitch well. So usually that means like, hey, we just whooped your ass, or I'm whooping your ass. So you like the booing, and in that sense, I have gotten booed at my home stadium a few times, and it's like, hey, I fucking deserved it. So, like, yeah, you're right. You're not wrong. So, but if 98% of the booing comes when you're the road team because you're whooping their ass, then yes, you love it. You just don't want 98 of your home fans booing you at all times. So far, I've not had that. I have had some issues where, New York could boo you if you just have one bad game, which, hey, you came here to watch us win. When I was playing for the Yankees, I get it. Boo me. So it's like, I'm not going to get my feelings hurt when I suck that day. Like, yeah, boo me. I wasn't worth the shit.
That's just, yeah, because you're using it as a motivational thing mostly too. Like the away team, you're like, yeah, I'm doing good. Watch me.
Yep.
What
And then the home team,
stadium?
you're like, man, I don't need to suck like that again.
Right, exactly. What stadium is your favorite to pitch at?
Ooh. So I've, I like pitching in St. Louis as a St. Louis Cardinal. It's kind of like it's home. I will say pitching in, you got New York and LA, Yankees and the Dodgers in the playoffs, like when you're the road team in the playoffs, is like cool because they can hate you. Like
Mm,
there is like when you're warming up, the shit they would say to you and stuff like that. And I'm like, all right. You just, and I was like, the things that people would say to you standing above you in the stands, but they would never say to you when you're looking down on them face to face is hilarious. But like those stadiums, like it's fun. It's fun to go in there and it's fun to beat those teams, but those teams are hard to beat too. So I think it's like, I really like playing there, playing against them. I like playing there as a home player too because it's just an atmosphere. But the most success I've ever had in a stadium and the most like home feeling is St. Louis. So I've got three places I really like to pitch.
yeah, I like that. Well, you can have more than one. And speaking of that, St. Louis, you won the
Yeah.
World Series with them. How was that? That was really early on in your career. Like that had to have been a wild roller coaster of starting so high.
It's crazy. You look back on it now, like I'm about to go in my 15th season. Win a World Series in your first one. I was young, like, and then like, you just assumed. And the next year we went to the championship series. Next year we went to the World Series. So I was like, oh, this is what it's like. I'm going to do this forever. And then I haven't been back to an NLCS or a World Series since 2014, I think. So you're like, man, I would really like to do that again. But to have that ultimate high as a like in a team sport, like that was the coolest thing ever. I was the youngest kid on the team, and you had guys that were like 38 and winning their first ones, and like so, and like some of those guys were like so good to me. They were great to me. So, like all in all, that experience, I wish if I could go back and tell myself something is like, hey, fucking pay attention. I know you're young and stupid, but try to pay attention right now because you're going to really cherish this. But I mean, I was able to, remember a lot and stuff like that. But that's the only thing as you're a young kid, you're like, cool, I'm just here to pitch and win. I'm not really paying attention to what's going on. And then when you're older, you're like, man, all right, I remember that. But like, man, I wish I would have really honed in on the experience a little bit more. But it also might have helped me. Being young and dumb might have just been like, hey, cool, let's go play.
Yeah. Yeah, having fun's part of it. And like that brings up another question in my head. So you've been an all-star, you've been pitcher of the year, you've won the World Series. Like what award, I know you don't love talking about yourself, but like what award like did you actually feel you absorbed and you felt that high and you kind of celebrated it and you weren't just like on to the next?
I would say so. I was able to make an All-Star team my second year in 12, and then like I made one again in 21, and like to have like that break in between them, and having some good years in between there too, and then being able to get back there and like kind of be like, hey, I've not gone away. I just, and All Star games are kind of weird, especially for pitchers, just how it sets up, lines up. A lot of guys have good years, especially the first half. That was a cool one to kind of be back 8 years later, I think it was. So for me, it was a cool thing because like I've stayed doing it and doing it at a good level. So I think that was one where it's like, hey, like it was like your hard work paid off, your longevity's paying off. You're able to still show that like, hey, I'm still pretty good even though I'm getting a little older.
Yeah. And it's a job for you. People, like your season is long. There are so many games and then plus playoffs if you make it, plus off season training. Like you said, 6 to 8 months, you're gone. Like, do you still love it?
Yes, I love competing. I really like. Like my 1 out of every 5 days when I get a play is like I'm able to kind of like let everything out, and that's great. The other things are getting old. There's no other way to say that. So like being away, stuff like that, like it wears on you. But still, that being able to go out there and compete that day is such a exciting, thrilling, like it's that feeling's still there to where it's worth it.
And what's the dark side of being at your level, an A-list or a professional athlete, like one of the best there ever has been, like being a celebrity? What is the dark side? What's the trade-off?
You miss a lot, especially in like you said with the travel and stuff like that. You miss a lot. I feel like every time I come home, my kids are a foot taller, stuff like that, and you just don't. You get it. The good thing is when I am done, we're gonna be able to spend a lot of time together and do things that like I would have never imagined growing up or never got the opportunity growing up. So my kids will have that. But right now I'm missing some of the things that, you're missing kind of them grow and become their own little people and stuff like that. And you're always trying to play catch up as in, what's our favorite snack this week? Stuff like that. You're like, man, what do we like now? I've been gone for a week on a road trip. I don't know if we're still eating the same thing sometimes. So
Right.
it's a weird vibe, and you try to come in and just help. I've learned is try to come in and just help, because if you come in and like try to run things, it ain't gonna work because you haven't been there. You don't even know how things are being ran. So it's like, hey, help me out here. Tell me what I need to do. What kid likes what? How am I going to get us to where we need to go today? And then, just let them know you love them.
Well, you kind of come back in as the fifth kid, I think Diamond might say.
At times, yeah, at times, yeah, especially during the season, it's like, hey, I can't do that. I got to get ready to pitch today. And she's like, really? So, but yeah, there's a little bit of that in there.
And if someone, listening wants to play baseball or they want their kid to play baseball or be a professional athlete, like what do you wish that more people knew about maybe baseball or just the lifestyle in general? What would you say?
For me, I want every kid to have the dream. Like for me, this was I'm living my dream as a little kid. So, but like in the course of that, you're going to have dreams, you're going to have things that you like to do, but don't forget to be a kid and to have fun doing other things, because that's what makes you whole. This is just something you do. The other things in life are things that are able to make you whole, give you friendships and things that you wouldn't dream of. So I would say obviously chase your dreams, chase your passions, work hard, do all those things, but don't make sure you have other things to make your life whole, because those are the things that is what it's all about. Like a lot of my friendships and stuff like that have come from baseball, but it's also like, I still have friends from when I grew up and stuff like that because I played other sports and I went to other things and stuff like that, where it makes it all worth the while by having the ability to have a lot of different stuff going on in your life. I will say that that's probably the best thing I can say is enjoy it and all that, but it is just something it's a dream. So chase it and have fun with it, but don't forget about other things while you're chasing it.
I think that can apply to everyone. Like, I need that reminder too, like that's really good. I love that.
I think people get locked in, right? You get locked into certain things and then you forget that you still have to be a human and have, relationships and stuff that are outside of the dreams and things that you're chasing, which makes those things when they do happen even better.
Mm-hmm. And you've always been like a leader on the team, just because I feel like you're really confident and know who you are. Like, you're funny, but you also kind of do your own thing and have figured some things out yourself. So what advice are you giving to some of these younger players when they come to you?
Ah, so it was becoming a leader is a weird one. It's kind of one of those things. When I was little, I wasn't a talker. I wasn't big. I was a quiet kid. I was like, hey, I'm gonna go do this, and like I'm not gonna speak and stuff like that. So I've kind of grown into the ability to talk and help people out. So I think it's by being quiet early on in my life, I listened a lot and I observed a lot. And there were things that teammates and this and that, guys that thought they were leaders, that I didn't like. So and then everybody has their own way of leading too. So I would say the number one thing for me is there's not one way to do anything. Everybody has their own way. They were trained a certain way. They have their own mindsets. So my big thing is actually getting to know the person, to know how they think, so then I can actually have a conversation with them. Because if you go to someone and tell them something, they might not even have the same terminology of pitching and stuff that you do. So you need to learn their terminology so you can actually help them with certain things. And what I've learned is they've helped me in return by just having conversations. So starting conversations, asking questions, getting to know people, and doing it on a personal level. When you have on a personal level with people, then it helps the leading process, because they actually think you're there for them, instead of being like, hey, I'm older than you, you listen to me, do what you're told. That ship sailed, especially in professional athletes. And I was a problem of that when I was coming up. People were like that to me, like, hey, you need to do this. And I'm like, I'm good. Appreciate you. I'm going to do it my way. So by me being a little bit of an asshole growing up, helped me with people that are similar to me coming up too. Is like, hey, yeah, you don't want to be told what to do. You're a grown man making millions of dollars. You don't need a guy that just because he's a little bit older than you telling you what to do. That's no, like, let's be buddies and we can both like keep each other accountable. And then that's the way where you can break through to people.
No, I love that. And what do you wish you would have known when you were younger? Like, you wish you would have figured out a little sooner, or someone would have told you that you think you would have listened to?
I think they all told me everything that I should have known. I just was like, I'm going to do it my way. So that's I've got some guys on my mind that would laugh at that comment right there, because they're like, yeah. And then, but what I was able to do is take a little bit of from everybody. I had some really good guys that I played with that were older than me. And I took, you would take maybe this pitching thing from them, or this prep thing, or this, way it works out and stuff like that. And then you start making it your own. So I think that's the thing that I I did without knowing. I wish I would have done it sooner, as in like really thought about it as a whole. I kind of just slowly did one thing at a time instead of making like wholesale changes all through. It was like, oh, I like that, I'm gonna add it in, and then it was like, oh, that's kind of cool, I'm gonna add it in. And then like, so I slowly built what I've become, instead of like, it would have been nice, obviously it'd been nice to go back and at 24 be like, hey, you need to do this, this, and this, and then I would have been that right away. but who knows what would have happened? But
Right.
that would have been the best thing to do. But I don't know if it would. I don't know if it would have turned out this way. So it's been a fun career for sure.
And what goals do you still have left in your career? I know everyone thinks, professional athletes, when they hit 30, like you said earlier, like, oh, you're old, which is not real in the real world. But like, what do you still feel like you haven't done yet that you want to do, or some of your goals?
Your yearly goals are all the same. Like as a pitcher, you want to make your 30 starts, you want to throw your 200 innings. Those are always like like, hey, if you do those, then what you do. Like now I'm in the length that I've had, I'm hitting some milestones. So that's kind of cool. Last year I hit 2,000 innings, 2,000 strikeouts, which are pretty good numbers. And then I was hitting some actual Cardinals milestones from my years there. And then now I think if I look at my win-loss record, I could get to 150 wins next year, which is kind of cool. So I think you kind of like you have your goals, your yearly goals, and then you have now it's like it went from yearly goals to like, oh, there's some career stuff I can hit that you never would have thought about. Heck, I was hitting some last year I didn't even know that were there or were able to hit. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But now it's like I kind of now that I hit those, I kind of know what's next. So for me, the next one is wins. I could get to 150 wins this year, which would be awesome. To play, 15 years and have 150 wins. That's winning at least 10 games a year, which is hard to do. And I had a year off from surgeries and stuff like that. So all in all, I've averaged more than 10 wins a year. So that would be ideal. That's the one this year, career wise, I would say that's out there.
I love that. Wow. How many games have you played?
Ooh, I don't know off the top of my head. I know I mean, you're looking at 300 probably starts or more, maybe more than that. And yeah,
Wow.
give or
That's a
take,
lot.
probably heading towards 400.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm over innings wise. I've thrown 2,000 innings in the major league, so we're
Wow.
over that. So
That's a lot.
yeah,
Congratulations. And then, so
yeah, I feel
this
every
is,
one of them.
you say that again? You felt every one of
I
them?
said I feel every one of them. So
Yeah, you remember every day. What about between you and Diamond?
uh-huh.
Like family goals this year, or when you're playing, is there anything that you guys kind of want to restructure to look different to get more of that connection time and time with the family?
Well, the good thing, so the kids are getting a little older, so we want, it would be nice to certain cities being able to take them to, so they have those memories, and stuff like that. And the funny thing, I'm sure she would say, the number one thing that we try to accomplish every season is just surviving. So like our kids are very strong-willed, so it's fun, but it's also very demanding at times, especially when you're trying to travel and stuff, and they kind of want to do their own thing, and they have their own opinions on what they want to do. So I think the main thing is where we're at is school's priority one, making sure that they have their life as structured as possible for them so they can have their friends and all that. And then when it's time to travel for wherever I'm at, being able to experience that city, being able to experience some road cities, do some fun touristy stuff like that, being able to have those memories, have those pictures. So when they're older, they're like, we don't get to go anywhere. But like, yeah, but you went everywhere when you're younger. So you have nothing to bitch about.
I love that. And strong willed, kind of like mom and dad.
Mm-hmm. They've got a little bit of that in them.
I love it. All right. So I want to ask you a few things, and I'm going to let you know because I'm going to ask Diamond these few things in part two with her. So this is kind of like who's more this. So who's more optimistic and
Mm-hmm.
who's more negative between the two of you?
Ooh, God. I would. That's a 50-50 one because it's like it depends on what it is. I would say, oh man, I'm a, I'm gonna say I'm more. Ooh, I'm gonna get myself in trouble with this. I think I'm more optimistic, but I'm probably lying to myself.
Hey, that's okay. These are goals, right? These are also goals. Who
Yeah.
is more the go getter and who's just a little bit more lazy and chill?
We both are very chill, to be honest with you. So that's a tough one. We both are very chill when it comes time to like. go, I would say that's me. But at 99% of the time, we're both chilling.
Okay. Who's more messy and who's more clean?
Mm. I would say I'm more clean, but it's not so much clean. I just kind of like hide my stuff better, I guess, is the easiest way to say it.
Oh my God,
Like
that's
all like
hilarious.
my suitcase will not be unpacked, but it won't be like open on the floor with clothes everywhere, so I look cleaner. But it's just a full suitcase like in a corner, not
Oh my
unpacked
God.
at all or like clean.
That's awesome. Who it takes more time to get ready?
Definitely her.
Yeah. Who makes
Definitely her.
most of the decisions?
Um, I'd say that's 50-50 on that one. We got a pretty good flow of things. Like I said, we're both pretty easy going, so there's no like it's like when we got something we want to do, it's pretty 50-50.
Okay. Who's a spender? Who's a saver?
Nobody. I would say she's the spender more frequently, but I spend the most.
Mm, that's fair. Like when you know you
So
really want
it's a
something.
weird. It's yeah. My purchases are a little bigger, but
Yeah.
it's like she has to spend stuff on the kids and stuff all the time. So it's like Amazon packages every day and stuff like that. But she'll be like, "Hey, what'd you get?" I'm like, "I got $2,000 in hunting clothes." Like that's what comes. Stuff like
I
that.
mean, I feel like I
Like
can
I bought
relate
a
in
new
my
gun.
house.
I bought a
Yeah.
new $2,000 gun. I
Yeah.
bought a new $2,000 gun. I haven't bought anything in weeks. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
I know. And I'm like, I don't really want to know what that costs. That's what I tell my husband. Like, I just don't need to know that. What
it
about
evens.
it does. It does. What is your favorite like baseball chant? Either little league or pro or whatever. Like what comes up in your mind that you're always like humming to yourself or singing or maybe you and the kids kind of do?
Like when I was growing up, like take me out to the ball game, like that song probably is the one that hits the hardest. I would say
Hmm.
like it reminds me of my youth, like playing little league tournaments and stuff like that. I would say that's it. You don't hear too many chants anymore. But I haven't been to a little league game or tournament in a while. But yeah,
No, I like that. And what's on your radio right now? What are you listening to? Like who's your favorite that you're having on repeat right now? Singer wise.
so I have Spotify, and I was driving back from hunting camp yesterday, and we put it as like a AI DJ. Now I was like, all right, let's try this, and it says your most listened artist to last year was Morgan Wallen. So that was an easy one for me because AI told me yesterday that this so I've heard the most this year.
Oh my
But
gosh, I love
yeah,
that. Okay, so we're
so,
some more so you're some
that's
country.
right. Yeah,
That's
no, that's
cool.
good to know.
And I want you to tell the story of how y'all met, you and Diamond.
Yeah. So I did a baseball camp actually where we live now. I have a friend that I've known since I was little in Indy. He moved over here and wanted to do a camp, and I was playing in St. Louis at the time. So I was like, cool, come down and help. We spent the weekend down here doing camps for kids. Her little brother and his friends were there. We went to dinner with the owner and all that, and then kind of some people from town were there. And it was her mom and her stepdad and her brother and all that. And then her mom's like, "Hey, are you married?" I was like, "No, I'm not." And then like 2 weeks later, well, she's like, "Hey, well, this is my daughter." I was like, "Okay, you know, cool." And then 2 weeks later, they were up in St. Louis for a Red Hot Chili Peppers concert, and they were like, "Hey, we're here." I went and said hello, met her that night, and then been talking ever since. I don't think there's been a day we haven't spoke since. So it's kind of crazy how it worked out. But her mom, as I don't know, she'll say it differently, but her mom did the introduction, but she would probably say her mom hoed her out. I don't know what she would say. So, but yeah, that's
Oh,
how it went down.
oh, don't worry, we're gonna ask her. So, what was it? I love this story though, by the way, and knowing her,
Yeah.
it's hilarious. What was your instant like? Oh,
Yeah.
this chick's cool. I want to like keep talking to her. Like, what was it about her?
I think the funny thing about the whole thing was is like she could give two shits who I was, like could not care at all, like wasn't a baseball fan, wasn't anything like that. So she's kind of a shit talker. So it was kind of like we were having a little back and forth, smart assing each other and stuff like that. And then it just kind of like we were just, over the course of just texting and talking, it kind of grew. I think at first it was like, oh, it was just kind of fun banter, you know, and then it just kind of grows like that, where it wasn't like, oh, you're a professional baseball player, I want to talk to you just because. It was like she could care less that I was a baseball player.
That's awesome. And she's hot, and she's funny, and she's sweet. There's so many different things about it.
That's,
Uh,
yeah, and then well, you had those top of her being a smartass. It was good to go.
you're like, this is the one. I love this. What are you thinking of
Oh, this should be
podcasting?
fun.
Yeah. What are you thinking of podcasting so far now that you guys have your own?
It's interesting. I've never been, I've done some shows and stuff like that with like on the baseball side of things, just talking, like being a guest and stuff. So I am not one to care to carry the whole conversation. So I was like, I don't know how this is going to go, but that's her thing. So we were good there. So I just jump on and say some things here and there. It is fun. It's cool to like, it's cool to talk to people and ask questions and kind of, doing what we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's always fun to hear stories and reconnect with people that were your teammates in the past and stuff like that. And then for her, she's doing a little bit of that and a little bit of like friends and family. So just a wide variety, and you can make it whatever you want too. I think that's the cool thing about it. And so she's doing a good job with it, and I just kind of come in and out wherever I feel pleased or wherever she tells me that I have to. So that's pretty much the main thing. So yeah, it's not something that, me, I'm not going to sit here and want to talk about myself for a long time. So that's not me, but I enjoy doing it every once in a while.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I love it. And we'll drop the link in the show notes for people to come over and listen to your show and share it and all that, because it's really good. But before we leave, I wanted to thank you for your time, and it's always fun talking to you and hanging out. But what would you like to share with the butthole breathers that are my listeners? Like, what is one thing you just want to put your message out? Like, I wish you knew this, or remember this. It can be anything.
I would say so for me, I'm most likely these are going to be people our age and stuff like that. So like when your kids are playing sports and stuff, let them fucking enjoy it. Like
Mm-hmm.
the best thing that can happen is let them play sports, let them be kids, let them grow so then they can become the things they want to be, and then it will work out well. So it's like for me, like growing up, it was like I had a dad that was there. He was, he helped talk me through things. He was stern at like, hey, if you play, you're putting 100% into it, but like let kids become themselves. So if you force it, like, it's, I don't know, just let them be themselves and let them enjoy being a kid. And then if it happens, it's supposed to happen.
I love that. Yes. We're going to mic drop right there. That's all, folks. Thank you again.